So actually what I'm going to do, basically here I've kind of listed several, kind of summarized some of the key points that are in the questions. And I'm going to discuss them one by one. And actually, please feel free to either raise your hand or please submit, text through the chat box some other questions or follow-up based on what I'm saying, okay? So we can actually have a more live discussion even, okay? So basically, a lot of your questions had to deal with dealing with mental energies. So based on the way that we give mental energies to our objects of consciousness, and then those then, it's this magic. We empower the objects of consciousness with energy, positive or negative energy, that then comes back to us. Okay, so then there are a lot of issues with that. And one is actually the social dimension. Another is, okay, then issues, depression, mental illness, and so on. And so how is it really possible then to enhance the positive energy? So that was a series of questions, and that led to questions about the power of prayer, of meditation, and ritual. And then that led to a couple of really good questions about religious belief and commitment, which I'll get into. But then that leads to some issues about, well, what about terrorists, people in cults? Is the religion really giving them positive energy? Or how do we, or for them it's positive energy, but it's obviously negative for society. So how do we solve that problem? And that leads to the question, well, then what is positive or negative energy? And then back down to some practical issues like, okay, in life, well, what if Jack punches me? So how am I going to deal with it, right? And actually, what about the issue, as I brought up earlier in the example, dealing with rules? Okay, so I'm going to go through all of these different questions. So there's one point that I want to make, first of all, is that I made a very strong point, or a strong argument, that the energy from our objects of consciousness, in a sense, it really comes from ourself. In other words, Jack punches you. His punch didn't last long, but that memory stays in you. It comes back to you, and it's giving you negative energy. So that object of consciousness is giving you negative energy. And where does that negative energy come from? Well, it actually comes from you. And so okay, this is a very strong, or a very, right, so it's making the real argument, it comes from you. But let's not take, I make this kind of radical argument just so that we can really think about this, right? To really think about to what extent all of this really comes from yourself. But let's not take it too much to the extreme, right? And so remember the idea that the operating system is both, and many of you mentioned it, right, is both in yourself and society. Society makes you and you make society. So it would be wrong to consider that everything is completely internal to you, right? And so I guess what I want to say is we should not draw the implication. One implication we should not draw is that you are totally responsible for all of your bad feelings or your negative energies and everything like that. And here actually there's a really important kind of political debate. And there are two extremes to this, and it's actually very interesting. One side says that, right, you are totally responsible for yourself. And so, and it would be totally aligned, really seriously aligned with what I have said, that it all comes from you. Therefore, the solution to your problems comes totally from yourself. And so it's up to you. And if you have problems, you just blame yourself. You're the one to blame. Okay, so this is one attitude. Another, the opposite attitude, is your problems come from society. It really has nothing to do with you. Society is responsible for your problems. And so as long as society doesn't change, I mean, why should you, you know, it's not up to you to change. It's up to society to change, because society is unjust and unfair. Now, these two views, actually, they map onto the left and right. Okay, so the right wing perspectives, one is you are responsible for your problems and you're responsible to the solution to your problems. And the left wing solution is society is responsible for your problems, so we need to change society. So in a sense, in the modern Western kind of political operating system, it is divided into left and right in this way, and this argument goes back and forth. And so, in fact, it sounds, based on what I have said in the past week, sorry, my battery, got to plug in my computer here. It sounds, based on what I have said in the past week, that I'm really arguing a right-wing perspective here. And many of my colleagues, you know, most academics, especially in the humanities and social science, are left-wing people. So they won't like what I said. But the thing is, I don't believe in this left and right wing thing. In fact, I think both are important, okay? So we have to change yourself and have to change society. Twofold purpose. And in the second half of the course, we'll be dealing more with social issues and issues of justice and so on. So we'll be dealing more about changing the operating system of society. But the fact is, we need to be empowered to change your own operating system at your individual level and also at the social level. So now I'm focusing more at the individual level. But let's be clear about the critique of this approach. So basically the critique is this, it's, you know, and it's the critique of neoliberalism, the critique of capitalist neoliberalism, which is basically to say, you know, well, right, we are all individuals and we're all struggling for our own self-interest. And so you're basically responsible for struggling for your own self-interest. And it's nobody else has the, you know, don't expect for other people to help you. Don't expect the government to help you. Don't expect society to help you. You know, just, so if you have problems, you should really think about yourself, right? You should deal with your spirituality. That's your own issue. You know, how to give yourself positive energies. And the criticism of this is like, okay, you know, well, you know, that's very easy to say. Let's say now in COVID-19, you know, so the frontline workers, you know, the nurses, the people who, right, you know, the people working in hospitals, those who are doing food delivery, you know, those who can't stay at home. So those who are more exposed to the virus. Can you really say, and so they're obviously stressed out. They're obviously, you know, dealing with a lot of negative situations. So can you just say, I mean, it's very easy for me to say, oh, you know, that's their, now they have to change their mental operating system. They have to put nice, you know, good positive objects of consciousness in their mind. They don't feel good, it's their problem, okay? So no, this would be very unfair. It would be very, very unfair, okay? So the argument that I'm making about you being the source of the energies, I think it's important, but you know, let's wait until we go throughout this whole course, because I do not want to draw the implication, the right-wing political implication that is made, that is often being made based on this, okay? So the right-wing implication is, you know, those who, you know, you are sitting in a high-level position in society, so of course you're, you know, you're happy, and it's easy for you to think positively, and let's just blame others because they're not positive enough. So that's why they're poor. Why are they poor? Because they're not positive. Just let them become positive, and then things will get better for them. And that's the typical right-wing argument. But I don't agree with the left-wing argument either. I mean, we can't wait for society to solve, you know, just don't sit there and complain. Sit there and complain, and wait for society or for the next political party or for whatever to, you know, to change societies. And I'm not going to change anything. Because I've been involved in left-wing political movements, and I saw that inside our minds, inside our hearts, we were not better people. So, you know, so basically, again, goes back to the argument that I'm going to make, that we do have to make an effort for ourselves. At the same time, though, we have to realize that we are a product of society, and we have to make an effort to improve society. So we have to work both on the individual and the social level. And this is a big, in a sense, of difference between how I perceive spirituality and a lot of what you'll see about spirituality out there in society, which is basically about saying, you know, how to work hard, and then how to de-stress yourself. Okay, so this was the first thing about the social dimension. So to say that you are the cause, of the negative energies, that the negative energies come from you, is just one way to focus on that, to see how you can improve on that. But it's not to say that actually you are totally to blame for all of your problems, and that, you know, society has nothing to do with your problems. Of course it does. Of course it does. There are very objective social reasons for why people have problems, and even why certain groups of people have depression more than others, and so on. So then to the issue, let's say, of depression and mental illness and so on. So I don't want to get, so many of you raise this question, and to some extent this is true. But I'm not a specialist in mental illness, so I don't want to, you know, get into making authoritative statements. But one way of looking at it is that, yes, different types of mental illness involve, I mean, the inability to generate positive objects of consciousness, or to control negative energies. So the question then is, how to bring the positive energy. Some people, in some, you know, some forms of mental illness, it is really beyond our individual capacity. In other words, some types of depression, and, you know, there's something that I've seen. You know, some people, either because of their way the brain is constituted, or their personality and disposition, are more disposed to be more focused on negative things, and so it is harder to focus more on positive things. And so for some, so then it reaches cases where it's really becomes difficult to focus on or to function in life, and so medication and things like that are required. So just personal effort in enhancing positive energy is not something that will work for all people all the time. So I think this is important. But in the discipline of psychology, there are many, of course, there are many approaches such as positive psychology, positive psychotherapy, and so on. So many methods which are really about enhancing the positive, what here I call the positive, building a positive mindscape, positive objects of consciousness that are imbued with positive energy. So then, geez, it's so noisy here. Okay, a lot of construction going on outside my house. Okay, before I go on to the next point then, any questions? Now, how do I... Okay, I can't see the chat, so I don't know if there are any questions in the chat. I don't know. Let me see.
So far, no.
Okay. I'm just going to try to close some windows to block out some of the noise here. Right, sorry. Okay. Okay, so how to bring positive energy. Now, another aspect, and some of you mentioned it, negative energy is also often it's deeply embedded into memories, and so memories of trauma and bad experiences in the past. And so this is also one reason why, for some of us, actually probably everybody to some degree, we have some deep negative energies that are in us and that come up because of various traumas that we've had in our childhood, in our relationships with our parents, some of the sufferings that we've had in the past, and even our collective sufferings as well. So these really, the resentments that come from these sufferings, from these traumas that we've had in our relationships, right, our family relationships, and even our collective history, they lead to all this negative energy being kind of buried inside of us, and then it comes up, and that becomes an obstacle. So this is why it's very hard. You can't just wish it away, okay? I mean, it is there. It is there, and it's very powerful. And so, and one cannot fight against negative energy. What one needs to do is to increase positive energy. And, it's as if negative energy is darkness and positive energy is light. So the more light you bring in, then the darkness becomes less and less. And so, and the positive energy again, just like the negative energy, in a sense, it comes from within us, but it is triggered by by things that are outside of us, okay? So just as, for example, the case of Jack, right? There was the punch, and then that leaves an object of consciousness, and then it triggers negative energy inside you, and then you empower that object of consciousness with it. So similarly, so Jack is external, he's from outside, but then he triggers something inside you. So similarly, positive energies, one way to enhance the positive energies is to enhance the positive, good things in our environment that then trigger the positive energies inside of us. And so that's why, of course, and so important, why is having a loving family so important, right? A loving and nurturing family, because that love and nurturing that's coming from the family is incredible positive energy, okay? And so that strengthens us. It triggers, when we receive the love of our mother, the love of our father, it triggers the positive strength and energy inside us. And so it gives us more of that positive energy. So similarly, that's why friends and friendship is also so important for reinforcing, for giving those positive experiences that then trigger up in us these positive energies that we associate with the object of consciousness of our friends, okay? So companions, as I mentioned in the reading, right? Friends and companions, good teachers, mentors and role models, good experiences. So this is why all of these things are very, very important. Now, however, and here's where we will get into the issue of religion and to understand something about religion. All of these things, well, first of all, not everybody has all of these things. We don't all have loving families. We don't all have good friends who support us. We don't all live in a supportive, positive social environment. And even when we do, sometimes we're alone. Sometimes that energy, that positivity that comes from, those whom we love and who love us, it's not, they might be far away, or there might be an argument with them and whatever. And so it's not there sometimes. So it's very, in a sense, it's fragile. That kind of positive energy that comes from those people and that positive social environment is fragile. And so, but there are these, now let's think, and, or let's think of another thing too, is that even those people, our parents, our friends, the people in society, they may love us, they may respect us, but they're also, judging us in this or that way. So in other words, their love is not always unconditional. Their love is not always unconditional. But, okay, so in history though, here comes a figure who loves you totally and absolutely unconditionally, or who has absolute and total compassion for you. So, and he tells you that. So for example, Jesus. So Jesus loves you no matter who you are, no matter what you did, no matter how poor you are, no matter how weak you are, no matter how lonely you are, no matter how strong you are, no matter how rich you are, no matter all the good things or bad things you've ever done in the world, he loves you and he loves you all the same. So, or Buddha, or Guanyin, right? That compassion. So that compassion is for you. You are broken. You're a broken person, suffering, struggling. And Guanyin has compassion for you, no matter who you are. She is thinking for you. She cares for you. She wants you to be saved. This is unconditional. This is unconditional. So now we go, this brings us into the imagination here, right? If you don't have experience of religion, you might think, well, this is ridiculous. I mean, Guanyin, she's just a statue and she doesn't love me. Right? And Jesus, I mean, I don't feel Jesus's love, right? So, but okay, so this is what you've got to really think about and actually try to work with it in your imagination, in a sense, right? Let's imagine, I have my best friend, and my best friend is always supportive to me. Let's say my best friend Joe, okay? My best friend Joe is always very supportive to me. And I tell you, oh, my best friend, he's so great. But you say, well, you've never met my best friend, so, I can say whatever I want about my best friend, but that doesn't mean anything to you, right? So similar, if I just tell you about Jesus, or I tell you about Buddha or Guanyin, doesn't mean anything to you. But I'll just give you, so now I'll just tell you my own experience, right? So here in religion, it's about really entering into a relationship with this object of consciousness, God, Jesus, Buddha, who is this source of love and positivity for you. And no matter what and where and when and what situation you're in. And so for the religious person, just like you have, if you have very good friends, well, you call them up, right? You don't just say, oh, he's my good friend, and then you ignore that friend, right? So you call them up, you chat with them, you maintain a relationship with them. And by maintaining the relationship with them, you benefit from the positive energy that they give you. So religious people pray. They pray. And by praying, they maintain that relationship with Jesus, with Allah, with Buddha, or so on. And that relationship gives them strength. And okay, we don't have time today, but I'll try to say more about it in the next week. And also, it's a pity this semester, because in previous years we would go to visits to religious communities. And so you'd get a certain idea of what exactly people are doing. But this is really a key aspect. And there are two aspects to this. On the one hand, through this relationship, through prayer, for having this relationship with this object of consciousness, on the one hand, it comes from outside. That is to say, Jesus is not you. Guan Yin, or uh, Liu Dongbin, or whatever, some Taoist deity, right, is not you. So this figure comes to you, comes to your object of consciousness from outside. And so Jesus comes to you from outside, and he tells you something. He tells you he loves you. And you didn't say, oh, I love myself, right? So you got a voice comes to you that says he loves you. But then you maintain inside yourself. You have a reaction, and then you maintain that relationship with that figure. And this is why religious people will say that it gives them so much strength, It gives them confidence. It gives them positive energy and power. Because they have this relationship with an object of consciousness, with a God, who is always there with them, all the time. So your parents, your friends, they might be with you sometimes and sometimes not with you. But the religious object of consciousness is always with you. And you, through the prayer, you make sure you always put the object of consciousness in the center of your mindscape. So anyway, this might sound completely, whoa, so bizarre. But this is really, the way that I would explain how it works. And we can explore this a lot more. And for some people, it just doesn't work at all, to be honest. So even, we have religious people who are depressed and everything like that too. So, but for religious people who will talk about why prayer is important for them at some level, it would be, I think they would agree with what I just said, that it gives them, that if they're, it gives them strength, that the prayer, their relationship with God, gives them strength in that way. It gives them positive energy. This is one dimension. Another dimension is one source of positive energy is gratitude. To feel grateful. And so basically, when we feel that we've been treated unjustly or unfairly, when we feel that we've been treated unjustly or unfairly, that gives us very negative energy. On the other hand, when we feel that we've been rewarded with something, we've gotten a gift, if we received something good, that makes us feel so happy. And so gratitude is a very, very important source of positive energy. To feel grateful for the good things that we've received. Now, so an important spiritual practice is actually to have gratitude every day, to think about what are the good things that I have, the good things that have happened to me, and to feel gratitude, to express thanks, right? I'm so grateful. And that gratitude generates positive energy. For me, every day I feel so much gratitude for, I have for so many different things. My wife is, I just can't even express how much my wife gives me. um, how much she makes my life so enjoyable, so happy. And my children, they give me so much joy. And I'm so grateful that I have certain abilities that have really allowed me to develop and to do lots of things. And I'm so grateful that I have such great, at work, um, I I have great people like Steve, that I work with, uh, and I have others, right, Joyce and Martin and Jos, and I have a great team who are all doing such wonderful things. And so I'm so every day I just feel it's just so incredible that all these great things have come to me. And for everybody, no matter how, but the thing is, for everybody, even the air that we breathe. So that's why I'm even grateful to God that I have this life that I can do so many things. The air we breathe, the food we eat, we couldn't live without all of these things that come to us. Everything that our parents have given us, everything that our friends have given us. So if we remember that, everything that we've received, and then we express thanks, it really generates so much positive energy. Now, all of the things that I have, I could also be complaining about them. I could be complaining that I have so much work. I could be complaining that I have so much stress. I could be complaining that I've been required to teach, and I can be complaining that actually I had to, I was required to apply for a lot of research grants, and that gave me a lot more money, and now I have to manage all these people, and now I have to grade all these papers, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. There's so many things to complain about. Complain about the noise outside, complain that I can't go travel because of the COVID-19, complain about this and complain about that. There's so many things I could complain about in life. So what am I going to do? So this is our choice. Am I going to be focusing on things to complain about? The very same things that I could feel grateful for, I could also feel angry about. I can feel grateful about the air I'm breathing in, but I could also complain that the air is polluted. So every breath I could be, but also every breath I could be, it's so wonderful that I can stay alive. So how we face every single thing in life, we can face it in a positive or in a negative way. And this is actually another thing that happens in prayer. Prayer is about showing gratitude. So we're always saying thanks to God. Thanks to God for everything. And so you might be thinking, right, God didn't give you anything at all. God didn't even exist. Well, it's up to you, But one thing though is that this gratitude, showing this gratitude, thinking this gratitude, and expressing thanks, it really does generate a lot of positive energy. So that's why some people, they thank the universe. They don't believe in God, but they actually know that gratitude is a really, really important practice. So they thank the universe. Okay, thank the universe. Treat the universe like a person and thank the universe. Or, whatever you name it. So there's something to think about. There's so many other things that I could mention. But then this brings a question that one of you asked, which I thought was a really good question. Yes. Okay, any other, before I go into this question, any other questions in chat? Steve, has anybody said anything?
Not really. No.
Nope. Does anybody have anything to say or ask?
Oh, there's one student, Li Ying. I think you asked, you say that negative energy cannot be eliminated, but what if something used to be negative become positive later with time going by?
Yeah, right. So I'm not, okay, it's not that negative energy can't be eliminated, but it can't just be pushed out. You can't just say, I don't want the negative energy anymore. But it can be transformed. It can be transformed. So I have mentioned prayer, and I have mentioned gratitude. And I have also, and in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about mindfulness meditation. So actually how, actually by simply become aware of your thoughts, by letting them come to you, and then becoming conscious of them and letting them go, it actually helps to dissipate a lot of negative energy. But it's not by fighting against them. It's not by saying, I don't like that idea. Because actually by fighting against the idea, you're actually giving more energy to that idea. So we'll talk about that in 2 weeks, actually, okay? So this is through meditation. So I talked about prayer, I talked about gratitude, and then we will be talking about meditation. So how does meditation help to dissipate the negative energies? And another is, and we will also talk about that in a few weeks, is actually through the energies of the body. There is such incredible, just wonderful energies in the body, positive energies in the body, that when we become aware of them, we can help to generate more of them. So all of these are all different sources of positive energies. And so basically, these positive energies can help to dissipate the negative energies. You need more positive energy in order to be able to dissipate the negative energy. You can't simply fight against the negative energy. That's what I mean. Yeah, yeah. And then somebody else asked, what about rationality? Our rationality can is maybe a weapon against the negative energy. And to some extent, yes, right? Because rationality allows us to step back from some of our emotions, and then through our rationality, we can see our emotions, and to some extent, that helps us to that the emotions they have less grip on us. But our rationality in itself is maybe not powerful enough. So many people who are really burning with negative energy and hatred can also be very, very rational people. I would say rationality is a tool, it's a weapon, a very sharp knife. But who is holding the knife? The knife can be held by either very positive, a very positive mindset, very positive energy, or very negative. So that's the limitations of rationality. Yeah. Any other question?
So the best way to deal with the negative emotions is to transform it into positive, and instead of relieve it, right?
Instead of releasing it?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I'll talk a little later about handling certain situations. But yes, transforming negative into positive. How to transform negative experiences into positive experiences that give you a lesson, that teach you a good lesson, right? So another spiritual kind of perspective is that, right, this is another kind of attitude that many religious people have, or spiritual people have, is that their failures are actually a test, a spiritual test. So basically, if I failed at something, so that gives me a negative energy, right? I failed at something. But another way to look at it is that by failing, that was an opportunity for me to grow, right? That was an opportunity for me to learn something new. It is an opportunity for me to become a better person. So in that sense, my failure, or the thing that gave me that negative experience, transforms into something positive. So that's why maybe even you could thank Jack, you know, Jack punched you, but maybe after reflecting, then you realize it made you reflect about something. Maybe you realize, what did you do that maybe caused, led either Jack to act angry toward you, or maybe you discovered that, why were you so easy to be upset? So anything that happens to you, a bad thing that happens to you, it can be turned into a positive, something positive, a positive experience that you learn from and that you grow from. And so religious people will say, well, I thank God for making Jack punch me, because that gave me a good, this was a test. It was a trial. I learned from that. And now I grow, and I grow stronger from that. And so this gratitude comes out. So then you even feel grateful for the one who's doing something bad to you. Okay, so then this comes to the question that Wang Sinan had asked. And she asked, he or she asked, according to the video A28, it seems that there's no need to believe in any religion, because our ultimate purpose is to empower our positive energy in our mindscape. In this way, we may gain positive power from some role models like Lao Tzu or Confucius, or from the companions of others in the same community. But then how do we define this belief? So let's imagine somebody called S, who doesn't believe in the existence of any God, but S does the prayer and meditation every day. S studies the specific knowledge of one religion. She gains positive power from the corresponding role models and from companions in the community. There were mentors and teachers who teach and guide her about the spirit. Every day she feels happy about these things. So basically, S is not a member of a religion. She doesn't say that she believes, but she's actually doing all of these things. So is she an atheist, or is she a believer in this religion? Or is there another name for someone like this? And so this is this is such a good and important question, because we tend to have in our society now this way of dividing people between, there are religious believers and religious non-believers. And you are either or, you are this or that. And so the non-believers will never even think about or touch anything that the religious believers do, stay away from it as much as possible. And the believers, they totally are into that kind of belief system. But I don't agree with this kind of dualistic approach. Because precisely as Sinan said, and I've seen this a lot, basically I've seen it in two different contexts. I see it in Chinese religion. Many people, they go to the temple, they burn incense. And actually they don't believe, or they don't know if they believe, but they do it. And then some people do it a lot, and they don't, but by doing it, now, then they could just be going and always thinking about something else. But then maybe they go, and while they're burning incense in the temple, then in their mind, they are thinking about, Lao Tzu, or they're thinking about Buddha. They're thinking about the qualities of the Buddha. So Buddha really came into their mindscape at that time. So Buddha's in the mindscape. But then the person doesn't say that they're a Buddhist, right? And then the person might join a Buddhist, practice Buddhist meditation and things like that. So, and then on the other hand, there might be somebody, they say they're a Buddhist, but they never do any of these things. They might say, oh yeah, I'm a Buddhist. Oh yeah, I'm a Christian. But they never go to church, they never go to the temple, they don't do anything that has anything to do with Buddhism or Christian, but they say, I believe in Buddha, or I believe in Jesus. So that's why in anthropology, I'm an anthropologist, we look at what people actually do. And maybe that's what's more important. And this is what I've seen in my own religious community. So I'm a Baha'i. And in the Baha'i faith, there's not a strong division between the believers and non-believers. So, there are study circles and anybody can join the study circle. And then, then people can learn how to pray, and they can learn how to, and also how to serve the community in Baha'i service projects and things like that, so that they get involved. And even I know in places, there are even people who are facilitating study circles, and they even don't say that they're Baha'i, but they're doing all of these things. So it's indeed, and actually, so I think it's possible to play with, right, to engage with the different types of religious objects of consciousness, to try it out, to experiment, to investigate, without being a committed member of that religion. And then you would actually start to, then you experience, some of the energies or powers or whatever you might want to call it. But then somebody asked, another student asked, but you said it's more effective if you actually have the belief. And let's put it this way. It's possible to try things out, to experiment, to participate without being a member, without being a committed believer. So all these things are possible. But then, if you really commit to something, it's like you commit to your, to be loyal to your friend, to your best friend, right? You commit in marriage, right? So the commitment will have something very powerful that will be more, because once you commit, then you will, every day, you really, it's like if you commit to go to the gym every, 3 times a week, rather than going occasionally, right? There's going to be a difference, right? So commitment makes a difference. And you commit to something when you really believe it, right? You don't really commit to something that you're not so sure. And when you believe it, when you really believe it, you're more likely to commit, right? So that's right. So so participating in religious activities without committing actually is a good way of learning, and you can learn all kinds of things, and you can even gain a lot of benefits without actually making that commitment. But there's always going to be a difference between doing that and somebody who has really made a commitment, to it. Yeah. So that was that question. All right. So then, okay, but that's the problem of commitment. What about people who commit to cults, terrorism, these kinds of things? This becomes a problem. Isn't this a problem? So religious communities are not necessarily sources of positive energy. In fact, they could be sources of very negative energy. So what I was just saying about prayer, about religious commitment and so on, is one way of understanding some really important religious kind of ways that religion can empower a person. But it's not always it's actually not always good for the person or even for society. So how do we, what's the issue here? any group of people, and it's not only a religious group, any group of people has its own mindscape, we could say, right? You have your own mindscape and it's different from other people. And any community, any group of people has its own collective mindscape, you could say. So it has its own reality. Any group of people has its own reality, a mental reality that is shared by the members of that group. And this mental reality is different from the reality of other people. So there's some tension between the mental reality, right, or the operating system of that group of people and other groups of people of the general society. And this we find not only among religions, okay? We find it, and in fact, now with social media and everything, it seems that most people more and more are living in these kind of different realities. So you can look at, for example, in let me look now, American politics, okay? So in fact, you have the whole country is like divided into two alternative realities. Some people, you know, the pro-Trump people and the anti-Trump people, right? They live in completely different worlds. Their mindscape, in a sense, has become very different because they have different information from different media. Or let's say, you know, in Hong Kong, between yellow people and blue people, right? Or people of people from very different cultures, right? It's like they live in a different reality. They have different experiences. They have different sources of information. And so the energies, positive or negative energies, are also different. And in that group, they share that. But then they find another group of people or the overall society who see things differently. So there is that kind of a tension. Now, how will you respond to that tension? And there's one way, which is to say that the other group, the group that has that different reality from mine, is threatening my group. And God is with my group. And so we've got to get rid of the other group. We've got to exterminate the other group. We've got to completely exterminate the other group. And we can see that outside there in society, that other group is doing bad things. I mean, every group in the world is doing some things that are not right, right? So you look out there and there are bad things happening. So that group, they have to be blown up or they have to be exterminated. They have to be wiped out. Anything from that outside group that comes to us, we will respond to it right negatively with the idea of revenge or something. So we've got to fight against it. So this is, in a sense, the root kind of structure of terror of radical religious groups, but also radical political groups or radical religious groups, right? It's about the difference between my group and the outside is we're going to make it very, very strong, and then we're going to fight, you know, to destroy what is outside my group or what is the other group. Another kind of another possibility is to say our group is different, so we're going to cut off from the society, completely cut off, because the society or the other group is bad And so we're just going to be our little happy group here and cut off completely. So where this becomes bad is like your parents or friends or whatever, you know, they're in the society, and so you cut off completely. So people cut off from their own family, they cut off from their own friends to be part of their religious sect. So there's basically one group, one type is to completely close yourself into your own bubble, completely cut yourself off from society. So that's going to create a serious tension with the society. The other possibility is to try to destroy the society or try to destroy the other group. So these are the very, we could say, forms of not only religion, forms of religion, but also we find this in political ideology and some types of cultural groups, which can have very destructive effect, Yeah. So, and so some of you had asked, well, so for the members of that, let's say, terrorist group or that cult, they have very positive energy, but it has negative impact for the outside. Well, that's a good question, because it makes me think, and I'm not sure I have the answer exactly yet. Let's remember, though, that negative energy is also energy. It's power. So if Jack punches me, I have that energy of anger. That is powerful. That is energy, anger that wants to make me fight back, right? Now, a healthy religion, and literally expressly, you know, teaches. It not only teaches, but okay, it teaches to be loving and compassionate. And it provides positive objects of consciousness in the mindscape to generate positive energy in order to help you to be loving and compassionate. So in a sense, it gives the energy to convert that negative energy of anger into positive energy of love. So this is what religion does when it is working well. Okay, it actually helps to convert negative energy of anger into energy of love. But some religious groups actually don't have that. So the terrorist group does not have that. So then what it is doing is the terrorist group, it sees the, let's say Western civilization is destroying our culture. And so I just want to, just like Jack punched me, it's like the West punched our culture. The West punched our religion. We've got to fight back and destroy the West. So it's that anger, that energy of anger is actually amplified, right, to become destructive. So there's no energy of love, no positive energy in there at all. So that's why we need to become aware and to think a little bit more about positive and negative energies. And actually, that's how we can see also religious groups, a healthy, a constructive, a religious group is one that actually generates this positive energy. But there are some which actually do not. And we find it doesn't matter actually, in any different religious tradition, we will find some groups that are really actually primarily focused on that negative energy of anger, and which becomes very destructive. Yeah. So, any other questions?
There are some questions on Zoom chat. Quite a number of students pose questions.
Can you Can you, I don't know how I can.
Let me just read it out because one question is on is a private chat, so I just say it. So one question asks, when we encourage a depressed person to think more positive, it is more likely to make them more focused on their previous negative mental energy and making them to have a more negative mindset. How can we deal with it?
Right. Yes. Right. Just tell people, oh, you should be more positive is not going to help. Right. Um, um, and that's why, again, I think that it's not so much about directly confronting the negative energy or making people feel bad by telling them that you don't have enough positive energy, right? But it's actually about creating, so it's basically, yeah, I mean, what it is how do you create conditions where more positive energy can be generated? So, so what we do, for example, so I will speak from experience, and later, in tutorials, maybe Steve can speak from his experience, and Joyce can speak from her experience. But, for example, in the Baha'i community, right? So we try to create situations where more positive energy is going to be generated. So through study circles where people are going to be learning together and where they're going to be sharing in a positive way, they're going to be encouraging each other, they're going to be meeting each other regularly and giving themselves that kind of encouragement. So they're creating that kind of situation of companions that I talked about. Right, by learning how to pray, they will learn how to connect with those other positive energies and so on. And also the idea of creating a path of service to society. So by serving society, you're doing positive things for other people, and that brings more positive energy to yourself. So all of these things are, in a sense, creating situations and for more positive energy and that are sustained, building gradually, right? And so that helps to shift the focus away from the negative energy without always, rather than just saying, oh, you should think positively, right? I mean, that doesn't really help, right? It just might make the person even more depressed because I can't think positively, right? So these things take time, right? These things take time. And so by creating a track, a certain types of activities, a track of ways of conversations, of activities, and situations where it's just building up more positivity that allows the person to shift the focus away from that negativity without and to gain more positive energy. So I think that's one way, but I'm not a psychotherapist, so please don't take my ideas as a professional. I'm only speaking in general situations, like of normal life with normal people. If there's serious issues of depression, I cannot speak about that in a professional way. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are two other questions on cults and religion. So yeah, you can. So one questions are by CT, who ask, how can we distinguish between cults and religions that give people positive energy? And Stephen, in another question, asked, between cults and religions, how can people actually define positive energy? People in different groups regard the energy that gives them belief and energy as positive energy. Does the positive energy mean the energy that is socially recognized and catering to the social moral?
Right. So this is, yeah. So these are really, really good questions. And I think they show they really make me think about what am I talking about when I'm talking about positive energy or negative energy. And maybe there's a problem with using those words of positive and negative energy. So it really makes me think. But um, uh, you know, because I think this, there's two levels of looking at this. One is individually, subjectively, and the other one is societally, at the level of society. And actually, the two are interconnected. But undoubtedly, at the individual level, what do we mean by positive is what, makes us happy, what makes us in good spirits, what makes us motivated, what makes us have a sense of, we're doing something meaningful. Um, um, you know, right, 很精神, right? As we say in Chinese, right? So, whereas negative is what really draws us down, makes us sad, makes us angry, makes us lose motivation and things like that. So I think at the individual level, it's pretty, I think anybody can kind of understand. So then, but then societally, but I think it's the same actually, that basically, can a community of people, doesn't matter if it's a religious community or another community, can it also help the people around it who are not a member of that community? Can it help them to have, to feel in good spirits? Can it help them to, right, to be happier? Can it help them to have more motivation to do more good things, right? So I think then such a group is bringing positive energy to the society. But some groups actually, but a group could be doing the opposite, right? It could be making other people very frustrated. It could be making other people very angry. It could be, just causing a lot of division and conflict. So then it's not positive, right? And the main religions, they talk about universal love or universal compassion or universal justice. That means for all of humanity, right? So Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad of Islam, right? God speaks for all of humanity. All of humans are equal. So that means we have to do good for all of humanity. Jesus Christ loved all people. And so that means to be a Christian, you want to do good for all of humanity. The Buddha had universal compassion. So again, so the religious teachings, they would want you to do good, to be positive for not only your group, right? Not only your group and your religion, but even for the broader society. So I think that's a simple answer. Of course, there might be complicated issues there, but I think that's how that's the basic idea. And actually later in the class, toward the second half of the class, we'll get a lot more into discussion of the interaction between the religious community and the broader society. And we can discuss more of these issues at that time. Yeah.
Well, actually, there are a number of follow-up questions, but it's
Okay.
because time is like we still have only 15 more minutes.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Right.
do you want to proceed to like your last point? I suggest students that you can post the question either on the open questions part or the reflective question part, because like this is the content for today, and I can see that many of your questions are directly related to what Professor Palmer just said. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then I do want to, so yeah, we had okay, we take up practically all the 2 hours, but that's fine. I mean, I think I'm really happy that you have all of these questions, because it really helps us to really get into these issues. But the, yeah, okay, revenge, right. Can revenging Jack create a better mindscape for us? A good mindscape means there is negative energy. There's a lot of positive energy and little negative energy. So Jack beating us triggers our negative energy. So for revenge, Jack beating us will be associated with Jack being revenged, which gives us satisfaction and can neutralize the negative. Yes, right. Okay, so how to handle situations. This was my last point. How to handle situations. And this is how to handle the situation of Jack beating you, or Jack punching you. So in a sense, the instinctive response, right, is to hit back and get revenge. And that is, you're right, one way, Jack gave us, by punching, we got all this negative energy, and then the way to release it is to send it back to Jack by getting revenge, right? And you're right, this gives such satisfaction. It gives such satisfaction that, and you start looking at this in society, then you might get addicted to it. And then what happens is, okay, let's say you hit Jack back, you punched him back, or you took some revenge on Jack. You took some kind of revenge on Jack. Now, Jack is exactly the same situation as you, right? So you sent all that negative energy to Jack, right? You did something to Jack. Maybe you hit him, or you did some kind of other revenge on him. Same thing for Jack. Now he's going to get revenge on you, right? And actually, and he get a lot of satisfaction from gaining revenge on you. So now you and Jack, actually, you guys could be going on and on like that, revenge counter revenge, revenge counter revenge, for a very, very long time. So much so that your life is all about how to have more revenge on Jack, and it gives you so much satisfaction. And Jack, his life is all about how to get revenge on you, and that gives you so much satisfaction. It gives him so much satisfaction. So what happens then is that you become dependent on your enemy. Your main source of energy is your enemy. Isn't that incredible? But this is, look at the world. Look at the world today, and you will see this is the root of what I call the conflict system. And I'll talk about that later in this course. A system. So basically, you and Jack, even though you're enemies, you and Jack are actually in a very special kind of relationship where you depend on Jack and Jack depends on you. Jack gives you so much energy because every time he does something bad to you, it makes you want to fight, and it gives you energy and you fight back. And every time then you did something bad to Jack, Jack gets so much energy and wants to fight back at you. So even though you two are enemies, but actually you two are tied together in one relationship, a conflict system. Think about this. Think about this. So, and this is actually the cult and the terrorist group, or the extremist, extremist or extremist political movement. This is exactly how it works. This is exactly how it works. So somebody said, how about kill him secretly? Don't let him and his family revenge. Okay, right. So anyway, I want you to think about, but we'll talk about it later in the course, this idea of the conflict system. Now, the thing is, and so here's where religion gives us a very radical alternative. So, you know, we know the saying about Jesus, you know, if you get hit on one cheek, you turn the other cheek. And Buddha, you know, pure compassion, right? You could never imagine Buddha fighting on anything, right? So these figures in our object of consciousness, if they're in our object of consciousness, they force us to think another way. What does it mean if Jesus, you know, not only he doesn't fight back, he turns his cheek? How would Buddha respond to this? Now, you and I are not Jesus and not Buddha, and we probably will not respond exactly the same way that they did. But with Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad being in our mindscape, we will get the kind of the energy that they have, and we will start thinking in a different way. And we will be less dominated by our idea of revenge. We'll start thinking, what else could I do? What else could I do, right? So I'll talk about my own experience. You know, I have had, I won't get into detail, but, you know, I had situations where somebody harmed me. It was kind of like Jack, okay? Well, not physical punching, but really did something, made my life very difficult and really, really harmed me. And actually this put me in a very, you know, and actually it was not me and a small group of people. Let's say a small group of friends, right? Now, one response is do nothing at all, right? Okay, one approach is revenge, fight back. But then I'm not into that because, as I said, that starts the conflict system, right? It will go on forever and ever and ever and ever, right? And I'm a religious person, so I don't do revenge. I don't do revenge. But then I can't just let this happen, right? Because as one of you mentioned, you know, what if Jack is an abusive person? If I don't do anything, he's going to start hitting other people. So I'm not going to, it actually would not be a good thing if I just let Jack hit me again and again and again and hit people all over the place, right? I've got to protect myself and got to protect society from Jack if he's doing this all the time. So two things is how I approached the issue. And I'm not perfect, okay? I really, I don't want to put myself up as a model for this. But first is, you know, the bad behavior that harms other, it must be stopped. And so, you know, I took measures that would lead to the bad behavior stopping. But I took it not in a spirit of revenge. And I prayed a lot about this, right? How could I actually do it in a spirit of love? In other words, to be honest, I cannot love the person who did something bad to me, but at least I tried, right? Try not to have hatred for them. Try not to have negative energies always coming whenever I think about them. And so when I took some measures, I tried to do it without any negative energy, without any hatred in my heart, but simply just to make sure that that behavior stops in order for the protection of me and for protection of others. At the same time, you know, me and my friends who are all involved in this, you know, then whenever we would see each other, all we talked about was complaining, saying all the bad things about that person. and that's not good. So we were always through always talking about that. That was generating more and more negative energy all the time. You know, thinking about that person all the time and so on. So I had to minimize, or how do I say, make sure that I have other friends, that I'm doing other things that are exciting me a lot more, moving forward in a positive direction and not thinking about that incident that, where I was harmed and I was trying to stop it, right? So I could be either thinking about it all the time, all day long, and there was time when it was hard not to think about it. But then in order to move beyond that, right, focus more on the positive things I'm doing in life. Focus more on the positive relationships I have. I can't get rid of that bad relationship, but just focus less on it. Do what needs to be done to stop the bad behavior, but then just keep moving forward. My life is focused on the positive things that I'm moving forward. So, deal with this realistically. Deal with this realistically. Don't let myself be completely controlled and dominated by the negative energy. I have seen many, many people in this kind of situation. That's what happens. They become dominated by the negative energy of revenge and so on. Right. Okay, final point. Final point. Dealing with rules. So one of you asked about, so what about the teacher who doesn't want you to, doesn't want the students to do dating or, various kinds of things? Okay, so this is a big issue and I only have 3 minutes and I won't get into the details. But two perspectives here. One is the perspective of the student, the other perspective is of the teacher. Never mind the content of the rule. I won't talk about that right now. Whether dating is good or bad, or, let's not talk about the content of the rule right now. But from the teacher's perspective, and I'm a parent, right? So I have to deal with rules for my children all the time, right? And so whether you agree with the rule or not, you have to impose some rules, right? So the question is, and the children or the students will break the rules sometimes. So the question is, for me as the person in authority, how to impose those rules in a positive way, right? So how to create, by imposing the rule, open up another path of something that you could do that is positive, rather than focus on the negative. So this is from the perspective of the parent or of the teacher or of the person in authority. The question is how to impose rules with positive energy, with a positive and loving mindset, and avoid doing it in a negative way. Okay, that's a challenge. It's not always easy, I have to tell you. Okay, now, how about from perspective of the child or the student, or even let's say for me now, the perspective of the employee, right? I have to follow certain rules and I don't like it. Some rules I don't like, right? But I have no choice. So one way is just, complain, angry, all these negative energies all the time, right? Okay. So no, I don't think that's good. It's just harming yourself. Now the rule might be bad, so maybe I should make some effort to have the rule changed. Okay, maybe I should, and let's do that. So in a positive way, how can I find a better alternative to the rule, and how can I find the authorities to try to get the rule changed? But that's going to take a long time. So that's not going to happen tomorrow. Maybe I make that effort. So now what am I going to do? Well, now I'm going to see, how is it that obeying that rule, how can it bring something positive to me? And this is actually what I do. I have to follow a lot of things that I actually originally I hate, but then I think, okay, now I'm forced to do it, but by me being forced to do it, now it forces me to do something I didn't want to do, and now I learn something new by doing it, and I gain some new skill. I gain some new capacity by doing something that originally I didn't want to do, and I was forced to do it, and I was not happy to be forced to do it. But now I've done it because I was forced to, and now, wow, you know, I have a new skill, a new ability. I'm better at doing some things. And yeah. So this is how you can, so same if you're a student and you're forced, you know, or a child and you're forced, you're not allowed to do this. Well, how do you turn it into something positive? Yeah. Even though you might then try to negotiate with your parents to change the rule. Fine, go ahead. But, you know, maybe you will succeed and maybe not. But in the meantime, how can you take it positively? Right? Okay. So the time is up. Well, we took up the whole 2 hours. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. I certainly enjoyed your questions, and that's why it made me talk for so long. And so for me, at least, here we go, gratitude. I'm so grateful for all your questions because it really helps me to think better. And I hope it can help you too. I wish we could do this face to face, so then we would really have real energies. You know, I can't even see your faces or hear your voices. I'm just looking at my own face on the computer right now. I wish I could do it in person. Hopefully in some of your tutorials. Steve, are some of the tutorials going to be face to face?
Well, actually, all the tutorials are running in a hybrid mode. So I always told students that you are always welcome to join me in the tutorial room.
Yeah. So I hope that you can have more interactions with more positive energies in person. And so we didn't have the videos for this week's reading, so please do the readings yourself. The videos should be ready in a few days. And I will see you all next week. Thank you so much.
Maybe I will also say a few words about, like, right now on Moodle, under week 3, you get the links to all the 4 essays, you know, for this week. So series A, 3, 1 to 4. So 4 essays, 4 readings for you to read. And we also provide you 2 YouTube links, because in one of the essays, you know, we will introduce to you the perspectives from the French existentialist. So Sartre and Camus, and when you read through those the passages there, and you know, the YouTube clips we provide you, actually they will help you to get a better ideas, like what Sartre really means by le choix. I cannot really speak that French words very properly. Yeah. So and also the idea of, like, the story of Sisyphus discussed by Camus. So you will come across those ideas and passages in the readings, and probably you can also watch the YouTube clips to help you get the ideas more clearly.
All right. So, and I look forward to your questions next week. Okay. Bye-bye.